Story 1. Talia and I have been going out for about 6 months. We first met at a local bar. She was sitting there waiting for her friends, and I was sitting alone as per usual. I mustered up the courage to approach her, and we hit it off. She even gave me her number. Soon after, I texted her, and we decided to meet up. We went on one lunch date a few days later. The date did not go that well. I Googled her and found out all of her favorite movies, TV shows, and foods. I even found out that she was saving up for a new MacBook Pro. Trying to be a gentleman, I bought her a brand new MacBook and gave it to her at the end of our first date. She seemed very disturbed by it. She said thank you and refused my gift before leaving. She stopped answering my texts soon after that. After texting her a few hundred times, I realized that I needed to take my efforts to the next level. She just needed to know that I really cared about her. After viewing some of her social media accounts, I saw that she had class on Friday mornings. I decided to surprise her after class with a nice cupcake and a few romantic balloons. When she exited her classroom, her eyes opened very wide. I gave her the cupcake and balloons. I then told her how much I loved her and how much she meant to me. She gave me a disturbed look and started quickly walking away with her friends. She didn't even take the cupcake or balloons. The police stopped by my apartment later that night. They told me to stay away from her. I'm no idiot. I know she was playing hard to get. I told the police I would leave her alone, and they left my apartment. I really needed to impress Talia to get her to like me. Talia worked a part-time job on Wednesday nights. I decided that after her shift, I would surprise her in her car. Then I would make her a nice romantic dinner. I drove to the parking lot near her workplace and picked the lock to her car door. I slowly climbed in and hid in the back seat. A few hours later, Talia came to the car and began driving away. After getting to her block, I jumped up and yelled, "Surprise, babe!" She screamed and swerved the car off the road before hitting into a tree. Luckily, I was fine, but she hit her head hard on the steering wheel. I thought it would be smart to place her in the passenger seat and drive her to my house to recover. This was a few months ago. I'm proud to say that we now live together happily. At first, she kept begging me to let her go home. After I made it clear that I didn't think that would be good for our relationship, she's been saying that she wants us to visit her parents so I can meet them. I would love to meet her mom and dad, but I don't think that they would like me. I've seen them on TV a few times. They've been begging everyone to help them find her. They will probably tell her to break up with me and to come live with them. That simply cannot happen. Her rightful place is in my basement. I can keep an eye on her at all times and give her everything she's ever wanted. She doesn't know it yet, but I bought her an engagement ring. We are going to be together forever. Story 2. It all started out as a normal morning. I went to get coffee at my usual coffee shop before going to work. I use an app that allows me to order via text message. Like any morning, I texted in, requesting my usual vanilla latte with a blueberry muffin. I was in a rush that morning, so I quickly walked to the cashier to grab it. There was a new guy at the counter. He appeared to be in his 40s, but dressed as if he was a teenager. "How can I help you, cutie? I know you're wondering. My name's Ted. Pleased to meet you," the man said confidently. "Here to pick up the coffee that I texted in," I replied shortly. After staring at me for far too long, the man handed over my coffee and muffin. "You take care, Stephanie. I will see you next time," the man murmured and winked at me. I completely ignored him and walked out. I was very creeped out. I figured he knew my name from my previous orders based on my cell phone number, but he just seemed off. For the next few weeks, I didn't see Ted at all. To be honest, I just figured he was fired for creeping out another customer. About a month after our initial encounter, I decided to get coffee delivered to my house. I was working at home due to the pandemic, so I figured I would use the coffee shop's delivery option. I texted my order and address via the coffee shop's delivery service and waited. After thinking they forgot about the order, my doorbell finally rang. I answered my door and was completely taken by surprise. It was Ted. He was smiling and holding my order. "Oh, fancy seeing you here. Love the place, cutie," Ted said after glancing very intently into my home. "Okay, thank you. Have a nice day," I replied. As I began closing the door in his face, he wedged his foot in the door to block it from closing. "Hey, why don't you let me inside for a nice coffee date, cutie?" he asked with a sinister smile. "No thank you, my husband is upstairs, and he wouldn't like that," I replied. He removed his foot and I closed the door. After that, I decided to stop ordering from the coffee shop. I didn't want to risk having that creep figure out that I didn't have a husband. The rest of the day proceeded as normal. I immersed myself in work and put the encounter out of my mind. Things began getting weird when I was answering emails in my office later that night. I was sitting at my laptop when I heard something fall outside. I got up and looked towards my backyard. The gate was swinging. This happened all the time due to a faulty bolt. I let it be. The next gust of wind would close it. A few hours later, I went into my living room to watch some Netflix. I got a bowl of chips and sat down. Exhausted, I dozed off a few minutes into an episode of Stranger Things. I woke up a few minutes later and continued watching. I noticed that there weren't too many chips left over. I could have sworn I didn't eat that many chips, and that the bag had more than that, but maybe I opened the bag another night and had some then. I shrugged it off and went to bed. As I was dozing off, I suddenly heard a hanger move. It was coming from my closet. Sometimes the fan in my room causes hangers to fall. I got up and walked over to the closet. When I opened the closet door, my stomach sank. Ted was crouching behind a bunch of my clothes. He didn't know that I saw him, but I could see his nose sticking out from between two of my sweaters. Using every bit of willpower I had, I didn't scream. I closed the closet and acted as if I didn't see him. I grabbed my phone and slowly walked down the hallway and out the front door. I ran to my neighbor's house and we called the cops. They came and found Ted hiding in the closet. He had duct tape and rope. I moved back in with my parents shortly after that. My entire life, I have been taught to shrug things off. The loud thump in the middle of the night, or the noise coming from the closet. Trust your instincts. Ignoring them might just cost you your life. Story 3. I've been working at a local pub for the summer. It's not a bumping or crowded pub for partygoers. It's located in a small village outside of a quiet residential area. Most of the customers are regulars and older men. The job was good, as the hours allowed me to attend college, and the tips were very nice. It all went downhill when a man by the name of Ryan came in one day. Ryan was a young guy. I even had to ID him to ensure that he was of drinking age. The first time he came in, he said nothing. He simply stared at me. I'm no stranger to being stared at, but Ryan seemed to stare through me. When I went to get his beer, he stared. When I walked over to another customer, he stared. And scary enough, when my shift was over and I went to leave, he stared at me through the pub window. I could see his gaze as I pulled out of the parking lot. A few days later, Ryan came in during dinner time. He ordered 3 large orders of baby back ribs. He devoured them all within just a few minutes. I've worked at restaurants and bars my entire life, and I have never seen someone eat that much. After my shift ended and I was leaving, Ryan placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "I wonder how human tastes," and smiled at me. I awkwardly laughed and left for the night. I chalked it off as a drunken joke and put it out of my mind. The next day, I was working the afternoon shift. This was the best time to work, as there were basically no customers, and most of my responsibilities involved preparing the pub for the night. About an hour after cleaning the pub, Ryan walked in. He sat down and ordered a beer. It was 11:30 in the morning, so I was a bit weirded out. He was also staring at me again, but I had to do my job. I poured him a pint of Guinness and placed it in front of him. I walked over to the kitchen area and started scrubbing the floors with bleach. As I was cleaning the floors, I heard a pan fall over. I looked up and nearly fainted. It was Ryan. He was standing in front of the kitchen door. He was staring at me with hungry eyes. He licked his lips in a circular motion. He leaped towards me and held me down on the ground. He began biting my neck lightly before chomping down hard. I screamed and kneed him in the groin. He fell over but continued trying to hold me down. I grabbed the bucket of bleach next to me and threw it in his face. He screamed in agony, and I ran out of the kitchen and to my car. I called the police, and they canvassed the area. They didn't find a trace of Ryan anywhere, and he's still on the loose. I still have the scars on my neck. Never underestimate the creepy customer. They might like the food or drinks, or they might just want to kill you.